Okay, continuing with the theme of stealth mechanics, this one will be another short one. This is about creating footprints when your character is moving, and if you want, the footprints can auto-destroy after a certain period of time. So this is where we left off in the last video. All I did was just save our work so it creates a scene, and I imported the graphic for the footprint. So first things first, we need to create what's known as a prefab, and the prefab will be instantiated again and again and again, and that makes the footprint trail. So just going to drag this into our scene. Now, something we have to deal with now that we didn't deal with at first is that in any layer there is an order to determine which object is on top of which object. Like if there's a floor, the floor should be beneath the person who's walking. So if you notice over here in the inspector, order and layer, by default it's 0. So that actually works for us. What we're going to do though is change our people who are walking around. Again, for a sprite renderer, order and layer, change that to 1. Guard will change to 1. And our player will change to 1. So for the footprints, we're going to add a collider, and it will be a trigger, because we don't want people to trip over it. It should not be solid because it can be passed over since it's just a footprint. So we're going to add box collider, and it's a trigger. Just double click on that so it zooms to it. Alright, so that should be good. Let's tweak it a little bit. Now the reason why it's given a box collider is first is instantiating the footprints. The second is detection, that we want the guards to be able to see the footprints, and so for that you need a collider. So what we're going to do is, if you want these to auto-destroy, that's simple. Just going to give it its script. So we're going to create a script. Now it's really easy to destroy an object. And what you do is just put in a destroy command. And it's an optional argument, and what you do is you put in how long you want it to wait. Maybe you don't want them to disappear for 5 seconds. It's that simple. So destroy game object 5 seconds. So that happens at the start. It starts counting at the very start when it gets created. So let's save that. Now let's just watch that. Disappeared after 5 seconds. So now what we want to do is we don't want them just to be randomly here. So we're going to take that object, drag and drop it into our asset area. Just doing that makes it a prefab. See, the difference between the image is it's just an image. This has an image, and the transform component and the box collider has all those components. So there's a huge difference between these two. So now we can delete the original. And all that's really left is for our character to instantiate them. So they will also need a script. We'll enter that. Now, because they have a constant movement, this is incredibly easy, since the movement you're probably going to work on where they're being controlled by the character, where you put the instantiate command will be a little bit different, because if they're standing still, you probably don't want it to keep instantiating footprints. You could, it just seems like it would be unnecessary processing. So you might want to link it to the actual movement, that if you're pressing, say, the up key to move up, then it instantiates. We may look at that in a later video. But for this, since, like I said, they're constantly moving, we don't have to worry about instantiating when they're just standing still. So first we have to do is we have to make this object aware of the other object. It's transform type since it's an object. We save that. And now the hero object has a new variable. So now in this case, you want to drag and drop the prefab. And now it's just as simple as instantiate. We want to instantiate footfalls. Okay, so just a little jump there. What we're going to do, so we're instantiating that object, which is represented by the variable or stored by the variable footfalls. Get component transform position, so we're saying of the transform component of the object this is attached to, remember this is attached to the player, not the footsteps, get its position. So in other words, wherever the player is, that's where we should be instantiating the footprints. And then we want to use the rotation of the footprints. And again, it's the footfalls variable. Now this will make streaking lines because it's doing this with every single update. So every frame it's instantiating them. So what we want is a delay. So we're going to do what we normally do. We're going to put in a little timer here. So total time, public float total time, and it'll start at 0. And what we're going to do is this. With every frame, total time will be increased by time dot delta time. And as we've mentioned in other videos, delta time is the change in time. Just like for math class, delta is the change in. So the change in time. So take this variable and add in how much time has passed since the last frame. And now it's just a matter of checking when a certain interval has been achieved. So if total time is greater, let's do 1. So greater than 1 second. Then do that. Instantiate. But it's going to do one more thing. In addition to that, we also need to set total time back to 0. That should do it. Okay, a little bit too long. There you go, footprints. And so the next step will be for the guard to detect the footprints.